put your phone or device aside and immerse yourself in this audio story. Perfect for listening on the move, while relaxing, or for bedtime listening. We release new stories daily, so make sure to like and subscribe to not miss out. This story is based on true events. The number that broke everything. In May 2022, as global markets reeled and investors frantically refreshed their screens, one message appeared on Twitter that would become the defining symbol of a financial catastrophe. Deploying more capital. Steady, lads. It was posted by Do Kwon, the co-founder of Terraform Labs, at the exact moment his billion-dollar ecosystem was collapsing in real time. But what few people knew then, and what regulators later alleged, was that the stability of TerraUSD, the so-called algorithmic stablecoin he championed, had already been propped up before by undisclosed interventions involving billions of dollars. The cracks were there all along, hidden behind confidence, marketing, and an illusion of mathematical inevitability. And as Terra unraveled, a darker question emerged, one grounded in public filings, government investigations, and the forensic record of blockchain history. How did a charismatic entrepreneur, once hailed as a visionary capable of replacing global banking, become the target of Interpol, US federal prosecutors, and South Korea's most aggressive financial crimes unit? Do Kwon was born in 1991 in South Korea. After attending Stanford University, where he earned a degree in computer science, he briefly worked at Apple and Microsoft before returning to Asia to pursue entrepreneurship. According to early interviews, he was drawn to decentralized systems and became fascinated with the potential of blockchain to reshape financial infrastructure. In 2018, he co-founded Terraform Labs in Singapore with entrepreneur Daniel Shin. Their goal was to create a stable, decentralized digital currency ecosystem capable of supporting payments, savings, and commerce on a global scale. Their flagship creation would become TerraUSD, commonly known as UST, an algorithmic stablecoin designed to maintain a $1 value through code and incentives, rather than traditional asset backing. Stablecoins typically rely on reserves. Companies like Circle or Tether claim to hold cash or cash-equivalent assets to match the number of tokens they issue. But UST was different. It operated through a mint and burn mechanism tied to another token called Luna. In theory, if UST fell below $1, arbitrage traders could buy discounted UST and redeem it for $1 worth of Luna, restoring its peg. If UST went above $1, traders could burn Luna to mint new UST, pushing the price back down. This system, designed to be self-correcting, was celebrated by crypto influencers and investors. But as later documented by economists, algorithmic stablecoins had a long history of failure, including projects such as Iron Finance, Basis Cash, and Empty Set Dollar. Few survived real market stress, and among them, TerraUSD would grow to become the largest, and eventually the most devastating, collapse of them all. From 2019 to 2021, Terraform Labs built partnerships across Asia and launched the Terra blockchain. Key to Terra's adoption was the Chai payment app in South Korea, which integrated Terra's technology for a period before distancing itself from the Terra ecosystem, a detail later scrutinized in SEC filings. But the real engine of Terra's explosive rise was Anchor protocol. Anchor offered yields of up to 20% annually to UST depositors, far higher than any traditional bank or even most DeFi protocols. Anchor was marketed as a savings account for the future, but critics warned it was a subsidized yield program that required constant new capital to sustain. According to blockchain analytics firm Nansen, A significant portion of Terra's growth came from traders seeking these high returns. By late 2021, UST had grown into the third largest stablecoin in the world. Luna surged to a market capitalization of more than $40 billion. Do Kwon became a star, confident, outspoken, even combative. He mocked critics, routinely dismissed concerns about algorithmic death spirals, and presented Terra as the future foundation of decentralized finance. Crypto media amplified his persona. Investors treated him like a leader with billionaire secrets, a man who understood stock market secrets and entrepreneurship secrets of a new financial era. But beneath the surface, the system depended on one fragile truth: the belief that UST would always remain valued at $1. According to a 2023 SEC lawsuit, TerraUSD had already lost its peg once before, in May 2021. During that event, the SEC alleges a third party, later identified in multiple media reports as jump trading, intervened by purchasing large quantities of UST to restore its peg. This support was not disclosed publicly, despite Kwon allegedly telling investors and the community that the protocol had naturally rebalanced itself. This fact, if proven, means that the algorithm's stability had already been artificially supported once, a detail regulators claim misled investors. And if a prior depeg required intervention, the entire system's resilience was far more fragile than advertised. This revelation became one of the central claims in the SEC's fraud allegations, turning Terra's success story into a documented corporate scandal. By 2022, UST had become deeply integrated into decentralized finance. Billions flowed into Anchor. At its peak, more than 75% of all UST in circulation was locked inside this high-yield protocol. This concentration of risk meant that if investor confidence in Anchor faltered, UST could collapse rapidly, a scenario many analysts warned about. On May 7, 2022, a series of large withdrawals from Anchor began. UST slipped to 99 cents, then 98 cents. Arbitrage traders expected the peg to be restored. But instead, a wave of panic spread. As redemptions accelerated, Luna was minted in massive quantities, hyperinflating its supply. Within days, the price of Luna fell from above $80 to fractions of a cent. The algorithm, designed to stabilize the system, was now accelerating its destruction. By May 12th, UST collapsed to 10 cents. By May 13th, it fell even further. More than $40 billion in value evaporated from the Terra ecosystem. A business scandal documentary was unfolding in real time, with millions of victims across the globe. Governments took notice. In South Korea, prosecutors launched a wide-scale investigation into Terraform Labs. Authorities raided cryptocurrency exchanges. Former employees were questioned. Reports emerged claiming that Kwon had dissolved Terraform Labs' Korean entity just days before the collapse, a procedural move that became a focal point in media coverage. South Korean authorities later stated publicly that they believed the dissolution was unrelated to the collapse, but still noted it in their timeline of events. The collapse triggered a wave of bankruptcies across the crypto industry. Several hedge funds heavily exposed to Terra failed. The fallout contributed to broader instability that same year, including Celsius, Voyager, Three Arrows Capital, and later the FTX collapse in November 2022. The ripple effects were global. And Do Kwon was at the center of what analysts described as one of the largest financial disasters in crypto history. By September 2022, South Korean prosecutors issued an arrest warrant for Do Kwon. Shortly after, Interpol issued a red notice, asking authorities worldwide to locate and arrest him. Reports initially suggested Kwon was in Singapore, but Singaporean authorities stated publicly that he had left the country. The hunt expanded. Media outlets tracked alleged sightings across Europe and Asia. Kwon denied being on the run, but South Korean officials repeatedly stated they believed he was evading arrest. Meanwhile, the United States unsealed an 8-count federal indictment, charging him with wire fraud, commodities fraud, securities fraud, and conspiracy. The SEC filed a separate civil lawsuit alleging a multi-billion-dollar crypto asset securities fraud. Terraform Labs became the subject of one of the largest multi-agency investigations in crypto history. But nobody knew where Do Kwon was. Until March 2023, when everything changed. On March 23, 2023, Montenegro's Interior Ministry announced that Kwon had been arrested at Podgorica Airport. He was attempting to board a private flight to Dubai. Authorities stated he was carrying falsified Costa Rican and Belgian passports. His identity was confirmed through biometric data and Interpol records. Kwon and his associate were immediately detained. Montenegrin courts later convicted him of document fraud, sentencing him to prison. While he served his sentence, both South Korea and the United States submitted formal extradition requests. The extradition battle grew into a geopolitical contest. Montenegro's courts issued multiple rulings and reversals throughout 2023 and 2024, as appeals were filed, challenged, and reconsidered. As of the latest available reporting, extradition proceedings have continued to evolve, with no final resolution publicly confirmed. The world waited to see where the next chapter of this real-life business crime saga would unfold. The Terra collapse reshaped global crypto regulation. U.S. regulators used Terra as a case study in congressional hearings on stablecoin risks. South Korea launched new crypto oversight frameworks. European regulators cited Terra in discussions around MiCA, the EU's landmark crypto regulation bill. Billions of dollars in wealth vanished. Investors filed lawsuits in multiple jurisdictions. Crypto exchanges faced scrutiny for listing Terra. Analysts called Terra's collapse the Lehman Brothers moment of crypto, a financial mystery turning into a business scandal documentary, unfolding in plain sight. The damage was not only economic, it was psychological. Trust in decentralized finance was shaken. The belief that algorithms could replace traditional financial safeguards was challenged. Terra became a cautionary tale of money and greed, wealth and power, and the dangers of unchecked innovation. Experts analyzing the case have pointed to several lessons grounded in financial history. First, confidence is a currency. When confidence breaks, even trillion-dollar systems collapse instantly. Second, high yields come with high risks, regardless of how they are marketed. Anchor's 20% returns attracted billions, but also created systemic fragility. Third, transparency matters. According to SEC filings, undisclosed interventions and misleading communications misinformed investors about Terra's true stability. Fourth, regulation eventually arrives. The Terra collapse accelerated global regulatory action more than any event since the Mt. Gox hack in 2014. And finally, ambition can blind even the smartest founders. Do Kwon's rise and fall reflect a pattern seen throughout history. Visionaries who build too quickly, fly too close to the sun, and ignore warnings until it is too late. This is not just a crypto story. It is a dark business story echoing the corporate scandal narratives of Enron, Theranos, and the FTX collapse. A real-life business story built on confidence that eventually collapsed under the weight of its own design. When police finally placed Do Kwon in handcuffs in Montenegro, the cryptocurrency world saw more than the arrest of a founder. They saw the end of an era and the beginning of a reckoning. The man who once spoke about replacing global banks was now at the mercy of international courts. The system, he said, could not fail, had collapsed violently, affecting millions across the world. And the same question that opened this documentary still hangs in the air, unanswered and haunting. Was Terra always destined to fall, or did the world simply believe in it for too long? In the shadows of cryptocurrency, revolutions are often built on optimism, but they die when the truth finally catches up. And for Do Kwon, the truth arrived not on a blockchain ledger, but in the form of handcuffs under the cold fluorescent lights of a Montenegrin airport. Subscribe and listen to our next story below.